Hello once again from the Prim Reaper. This is the second example I wanted to provide you all to showcase the other main example of the conflation of men's groups. This next video has been covered by several other people on YouTube, but there are a few things that I wanted to add to the discussion, and it provided a good, relatively recent example of what I've been talking about over the last two videos. I'll try to cover only the relevant parts because some of them overlap with the previous video I already talked about, so I'll just get on with it.
At the center of this controversy is the film The Red Pill. For a look at the film and the culture of men's rights activism it deals with, we've asked Rebecca Sullivan to join us. She's a professor of women's studies at the University of Calgary.
And afterwards we'll have a professor of English literature on the show to talk about advanced calculus. I don't understand how they don't see the silliness of this. Like a women's studies professor, a course that teaches about toxic masculinity and bases itself around how the patriarchy is the source of all the world's ills, is the best person you could find to talk about men's rights. I'm sure that this will lead to a balanced and well-informed discussion on the matter. She briefly goes on to mention the feminism is cancer thing, which, again, it's kind of frustrating that they have this easy little quote to return to every time they want to prop themselves up. It's kind of sad, really, because she talks about how scary it is, without the slightest bit of self-reflection as to why more and more people are beginning to see feminism as a toxic movement. Wish I could say I was surprised, but alas, I'm not. Anyway, jumping ahead a bit in the video.
The red pill, of course, comes from the film The Matrix. You can take the blue pill and go about your merry way, or you can take the red pill and enter the Matrix.
You take the blue pill and you get to go on your merry way, and you take the red pill and you get to go to the Matrix.
No, Grandma, you're getting it backwards. The Matrix is the world he's already in. The blue pill lets him wake back up in the Matrix and pretend it's real. The red pill takes him to what the world really looks like. The real world.
Oh, red pill, blue pill, it doesn't matter. Back in my day, it would be considered foolish to take pills from strange black men to begin with.
Well, then a group on Reddit were discussing not just men's rights, but also the pickup artist movement and how women kind of owe them sex.
No. This statement is so ignorant on multiple different levels. Men's rights advocates on Reddit were most likely not talking about pickup artistry, which is not, as far as I was aware, a movement in itself, but just a collection of people swapping tips to get more action. And they were certainly not talking about how women owe them sex. Even the hardline PUAs rarely go as far as to say that women owe them sex, and the only real time I've even seen them suggest something like this is, my girlfriend, wife, significant other owes me sex if she doesn't want me to end the relationship and start looking elsewhere for it. And though this may not always be expressed in the most elegant way, I think it's entirely reasonable for people to end a relationship for any reason, including if their sexual needs are not being met. But again, this is the type of borderline, deliberate, dishonest conflation of men's groups that I'm talking about. It's clear that this woman knows nothing about the men's rights movement other than what the fear-mongering in feminist circles tells her about them.
And so the criticism is that the blue pill is the women, saying that they want to be treated with respect and they want equality. The red pill is a metaphor for what women really want. The real world,
which is not equality apparently, okay,
is domination and subjugation. That's what women really want.
Have you ever been in one of those conversations where everyone knows what they're talking about except for one person, and that one person doesn't want to look foolish or like they have no idea what's going on, so they try to interject, and in their incoherent babbling, they wind up looking like more of an idiot than if they'd just kept their mouth shut the whole time? That's what this looks like. All of this red pill talk is needlessly confusing in general. I have to say, I think it's a real shame that Cassie J decided to name her film this. She does clarify that there is a subreddit by the same name that is different from the MRM in her film, but people who haven't watched it or refuse to watch it due to their own biases and assumptions will now be more likely to associate it with the much more controversial red pill subreddit. Even here, a lot of the assumptions this woman makes seem to be based off of that conflation. Anyway, where to even begin with this? The use of the red pill, blue pill thing in terms of the actual movie is pretty basic. Cassie uses the terms red pill, going down the rabbit hole, to explain the world of the men's rights movement she's trying to explore. In contrast, the blue pill basically refers to the familiar, originally comfortable world of feminism she began in. She even uses red and blue labels based on whether she's talking to a member of the MRM or to feminists, respectively. It's a nice touch. But even if we were talking about the red and blue pill subreddits, this is still ridiculously incorrect. I already described the basics of the red pill subreddit in my original Conflation of men's groups video, so I won't get into it again here, but the blue pill subreddit is not simply about respect for women. The blue pill was intended to be a satire of the red pill and make fun of their wacky antics. It's not red pill equals disrespect and subjugation of women and blue pill equals respect and empowerment of women. It's red pill equals sexual strategy in the face of contradictory advice from society, and blue pill equals, haha, the red pill sure is dumb, am I right? Let's all point and laugh at them. That's basically it.
What do we have? We have the Wild Rose on campus and the Conservative Party of Canada on campus jointly hosting this film. It has been mainstreamed.
Golly gee willikers, you mean the only parties in Alberta willing to give men's issues the time of day are the right-wing parties?
I think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from that surprise.
This whole thing is actually very frustrating for me because I really respect the fact that the right-leaning parties are willing to talk about these kinds of issues. But I disagree with them on many, many other things. And even though I'm technically more left-leaning, I really don't respect a lot of things that the left-wing parties are doing. Gonna make things really tricky the next election. Anyway, I think this woman's ignorance throughout this entire video makes her scaremongering "it has been mainstreamed" comment even more hilarious. Oh my goodness, you mean it's been mainstreamed that men have real issues too and you're afraid of this? Thanks for showing exactly how the Department of Women's Studies feels on the matter. Maybe now we can get working on that pesky feminism is for everyone notion as well, huh?
And what this culture relies on is the naivete of decent Canadians, of saying there's no way people really believe this. There's no way people are really acting upon this. And certainly there could be no way that they are infiltrating our respected political parties in Canada.
I have to wonder what it is that she thinks that people wouldn't believe. That there are fathers out there unable to see their children? That men make up the majority of workplace deaths? Or, oh, I know what you mean. You mean that there's no way that people would believe your absurd strawman caricatures of the MRM, right? As much as I wish that that were true, I know that there are plenty of people who will be swayed by what this person is saying here, which is what makes this so important to talk about. This is a person that is technically educated, with finger quotes big enough to eclipse the moon, on public television. So to many who are totally unaware of the men's rights movement, she seems like enough of an authority figure that they can trust what she has to say on the matter. Same with the person in the previous video. God, this woman talks about our right-wing respected political parties believing in the unmitigated horror that is men's rights, but we need only to look at the previous video that I showcased to see where the real embarrassment is coming from. Sure, the Wild Rose Party may be using crass comments to describe a movement they don't like, but at least they don't have to resort to blatant dishonesty, something I find far more reprehensible. Oh hey, speaking of dishonesty...
They stand for the right of men to have mostly sexual rights. It's the right of men to engage in any sexual activity that they want and, have entitlement to women's bodies.
Anyone who has seen the film will know how full of crap this is. I mean, you can tell from her hesitant speech that she's totally talking out of her ass. You can practically visualize the wheels in her head turning as she tries to figure out the worst possible way that she could spin this. The fact that they posted this publicly without any fact-checking is frankly despicable. Anyway, in case it wasn't obvious, the film doesn't say a word about men's entitlement to women's bodies. The closest thing they come to saying about men's sexual rights is how they end as soon as sex is completed, and how if men want to have any say in how the rest of their life pans out, given the possibility of pregnancy, they better be damn sure to wrap it up or keep their legs closed. Cassie herself remarks on the striking lack of options for paternal surrender that men have, so I'd say it's more accurate to state that the movie talks a fair bit more to men's entitlement to their own lives rather than to women's bodies.
The men's rights movement points to a number of very real issues in our society, that there are very few resources available to men who experience domestic or gender or sexual violence, to the fact that suicide rates are very high for men, incarceration culture, high dropout rates, lowering participation in post-secondary education. These are all very real and pressing and urgent issues.
Wow, there are so many real problems facing men. If only someone made a video, maybe like a sort of documentary, to cover these issues so that they could become more mainstream in public so that something could actually be done about them.
But they go from there immediately to it's women's fault, because they are denying men their natural rights as men, meaning if only we could just have sex with whoever and whatever we want, whenever we want, then maybe we wouldn't have to rape you.
Well, I guess that is exactly why it's controversial.
Exactly why it's controversial.
I guess that's why it's controversial, all right. Oh my god, eat shit, you lying, condescending assholes. I'm sorry. I usually don't like to descend into name-calling, but it's so difficult to restrain myself when faced with such blatant dishonesty. To call this bullshit is dishonorable to the usefulness of actual bullshit. And feminists say that women don't have privilege. I'd say that being able to be allowed to say things like this on public television without facing immediate, very public backlash is pretty goddamned privileged. Put it this way, someone lost their job for writing "Feminism is Cancer" on a couple of invitations. This person gave this interview with zero shred of hesitation and got to wake up on Monday, put on her "This is what a feminist looks like" t-shirt, and drive to her cushy university position teaching people about toxic masculinity. If my scythe gets sharper the angrier I get at stuff like this, it could cleave diamond right now.
Thank you very much for coming in and explaining this, because it has been a bit of a cloudy issue for many. So,
And that's what they're banking on. As I said, they're banking on decent Canadians not understanding what they're saying. And we need to understand what is being said.
And what you're banking on is that your lies will prevent this film from being seen so that people don't know how full of it you are. I have to stop. If I don't stop, the only words I'll be able to muster anymore will be cuss words. So I'll distract myself with something a little more useful. On the last Honey Badger Pussycat cast, I spoke with a member of Café, a group that has been helping to showcase the film The Red Pill in Calgary. These guys are doing wonderful work for men's issues and are in fact hosting another screening event, which I'll link in the low bar. The screening will be free and they'll be taking donations for services for men and boys in the area, so it's a really great cause and could use all the support it can get. I know my channel is small, but if any of my viewers happen to know people in the area that might be interested, do send them a link to that event. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure that they would as well. Anyway, to those who haven't burst a frontal lobe from the stupidity that was this video, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.